All right, we're going to be beginning our study of Chapter 2, Section 6, so that's 2.6. And as always, whenever we start a section, we always go through the learning target first. The learning target for the day, for today, is to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. Add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. Earlier, we learned about adding fractions with like denominators. Well, fractions with unlike denominators are unlike fractions. That's the definition. Looking at this first problem here, we can see that we do not have similar denominators, so we have to make some adjustments so that we do. I can adjust this second one, this negative 3/4 here, by multiplying the numerator times 2 and the denominator times 2. That will give me a denominator of 8, which will be our common, and it will give me a numerator of -6. So I've got 5/8 plus a -6. My denominators are the same now, so I can say 5 minus 6 over 8. 5 minus 6 is -1, -1/8. Same idea on the bottom fraction here. We can adjust this by taking the this fraction by 2 over times 2 over 2. 2 over 2 would make my numerator here -4. It'd make my denominator 6. So it'd be 5/6 plus a -4 over 6. So it'd be 5 plus a -4 over 6. 5 plus a -4 is 1/6. So my answer here is 1/6. This next fraction doesn't look to have a very easy common denominator. So I'm going to look at my factor trees. And I'm going to look at the factor tree for 96. Look at 96 and say 96 factors into 2 times 48. 48 factors into 2 times 24. 24 factors into 2 times 12. 12 factors into 2 times 6. And of course 6 into 2 times 3. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 to the 5th times 3. If I look at 128, 128 can factor into 2 and 64. 64 factors into 2 and 32. 32 into 2 and 16. 16 into 2 and 8. 8 into 2 and 2 into 2 and 4. 4 into 2 and 2. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 to the 7th is the factorization for 128. So I've got to take all the common terms from both of them. I've got to have a 3 in it, and I've got to have a 2 to the 7th in it. So 2 to the 7th is 128 times 3. 8 and 8 is 16, 24, carry the 2. 6, 8, 384 then is my common denominator. To get 384 on this fraction, I'm going to have to multiply by 4 over 4. So I'll have a -28 over 384. To get 384 as my denominator here, I'm going to have to multiply by 3 over 3. So I'm going to have a -45 over 384. And of course, I am subtracting them. So my common denominator here is 384. And I've got a numerator of a -28 minus a -45. So that becomes plus 45. 28 plus 45 is 17. So I've got a fraction, a final answer here of 17 over 384, and it is positive. 17 over 384 is the addition there. If I look at the second problem here, I've got a similar problem. I've got a 12 in the denominator and a 15 in the denominator. As I search for common fraction there, if I look at it a little bit, I think I see that 60 is probably the least common denominator, which means I'm going to have to take this times 4 over 4, and I'm going to have to take this times 5 over 5. So the numerator here becomes -35. The denominator becomes 60. And again, I am subtracting, so it's -35 over 60 minus a -16 over 60. I write that as one fraction. It's all over 60, and it's going to be a -35. But instead of saying minus a -16, I'm going to say plus 16. So 35 minus 16 That would be 19 over 60, and it would be negative, so it's a negative 19 60ths. And no easy way to reduce that. Looking at the next fraction here, I've got mixed numerals. I'm going to go ahead and write this as an improper fraction and then look for the common denominator. 8 times 4 is 32 plus 1 more would be 33. It's a negative 33 over 8 plus, this would be 24 plus 5 would be 29 over 12. If I look at those 12 and 8, I'm looking for a common denominator between 12 and 8. I believe 24 would be the lowest one, which means I have to take this fraction times 3 over 3, and I have to take this fraction times 2 over 2. So 3 over 3 would be a negative 99 over 24, and it would be plus a negative 58, I'm sorry, positive 58 over 24. Common denominator is 24, so I just write that, and then I go a negative 99 plus 58. 99 plus 58 is 41. 41 is negative over 24. That can be written as a mixed number. 24 that would be 1, a negative 1, and 17 24ths, and that can't be reduced. Looking at the next one here, again, I have to find common denominator, but I'm going to go from the mixed numbers to improper numbers, so I'm going to go here. 6 times negative 5 would be 30. Negative 30 plus 1 would be a negative 31 over 6, plus 8, 24 plus 5 would be 29 over 8. Common denominator between 6 and 8 happens to be, again, 24. So I'm going to be taking this fraction times 4 over 4, and I'm going to be taking this one times 3 over 3. 31 times 4 would be 124, and that would be negative over 24. And 29 times 3 would be 87 over 24. I'm adding these, so it's 120, negative 124 plus 87 all over 24. Looks to be 37, and it would be negative 37 over 24, which in this case would be a negative 1 and 13 24ths, and that can't be reduced. Negative 13 24ths. I'm going to be looking at this during January. Nikki watched television for 2¼ hours the first week, 2 1/8 hours the second week, 1 3/4 hours the third week, and 1½ hours the fourth week. How much time did she watch television for the 4-week period? So I have to add those fractions together. But before I write out my list, I'm going to look at these and say, boy, if they were all had a denominator of 8, it'd be much easier to add them together. So I'm going to change this to 2 1/4. I'm going to make it 2 1/8 plus, I'm sorry, 2 2/8, sorry, plus 2 1/8, it just stays the same, 2 1/8, plus 1 3/4 is 1 6/8, plus 1½ which would be the same thing as saying 1 4/8. Well, I think I can add up all the numbers out in front for the whole hours. So 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 2 4 6 6. Now I add my fractions. I have 2/8 plus 1/8 would be 3/8, plus 6/8 would be 9/8, plus 4 would be 13/8. Well, 13/8 can be reduced, so I can reduce 13/8 into 1 5/8, plus the 6 becomes 7 5/8 is my answer.